Hey folks, welcome back to the channel, your home for all content Lord of the Rings home. Today we're going to do more of a speculation video. This is actually an idea that came from my guildmates. They proposed this idea and then they suggested some of the things I could talk about here. And what that is the large creatures that could be on the light side teams. So we have 3 large characters currently in the game. You can only use 1 large character per team, right? It's in that back left slot. They are the Brute, they are Ironhide, and the Great Goblin, okay? So today's video, we're going to talk about some possibilities for what the light side version of those could be, but we're also going to take a quick look at the dev Q&A because I think there's a few tidbits in there that give us some clues as to what sort of we should be looking for and expecting in terms of these large light side characters. So with that, let's start with this dev Q&A question that says, there are many large creatures in the Lord of the Rings, such as Balrog, Shelob, or dragons. Will we see any of these large creatures in the game eventually? And Nick Reinholdt says, we have a notion of large creatures that basically tops out at Troll. So large creatures that we can play, I'm going to assume, are probably around the Troll range. Doesn't mean it won't change, but that's what he's saying. And they've definitely talked about things like wargs and eagles. So that's something that's probably going to come to the game. Again, it's not clear whether they'll be playable, but that's something they're definitely thinking about. And then other things like Balrog or Smog, those are definitely really big, and so it seems like those are being relegated to boss content. So with that kind of size limit in mind, let's go to one of the very first and obvious options for a light side large character is the Eagles. Basically, servants of the gods of Middle-earth, the Valar. And there's one in particular, they show up across all the different ages, the first through the third age. They help Gandalf a lot, right? I know everybody's like, well, why didn't they just fly the ring to Mount Doom? That's not a discussion I'm going to get into here, but there is one eagle who gets dispatched by Radagast, another Ishtar, that is I'm going to really butcher this. Gwaihir. And he's basically the king of the big eagles, and he's the one who ends up saving Gandalf, and I think he ends up saving Frodo and Sam after Mount Doom as well. So I think he is a very natural option to become like a large light side character. I think that would be really cool to have in game. Of course, the other one that you could think of immediately off the top of your head is the Ents. When you talk about the Ents, we're going to probably have to bring in Treebeard, right? The oldest of the Ents, plays a critical role not only in the books and, you know, getting the Ents to go rush Isengard, right? But he's a pretty characteristic part of the movie that I think actually, you know, even though they don't have the rights to the movie, would be a recognizable thing that would draw players who have only maybe just seen the movies into the game. And of course, he's awesome. He's a big tree. Unfortunately, right, what this means, because you can only have one large character per team, is that you're not going to have like an Ent squad or faction. You can probably just have one Ent on your team. And so my guess is that they'll come out with Treebeard at some point in the near future. One other thing that kind of supports that is, this is also from the dev Q&A. CG Heme asks, if you could bring any character from the movies, books, series, from the first or second age in Lord of the Rings lore, etc. into the game, who would it be? And he gives a top 3, which are in no particular order. It's Treebeard, Durin the First, and the Witch King. Witch King has been data mined. It's already in the game, right? Treebeard, it's the one we just talked about. I think this is a soft confirmation that we'll probably be seeing Treebeard. At least that's what I hope. And Durin the First, which is also another character that makes a lot of sense to add into this game, right? Here is one that maybe you wouldn't think of right off the top of your head, and it's Bjorn. And if you saw the Hobbit movies, he's like this black bear, they call him a skin changer, that lives out basically in the woods that ends up helping Thorin. And he can run really fast, and he just changes into different animals, most often a black bear. I think this could also be an interesting character to add, say, when they start releasing more characters related to Thorin's company, and kind of if they do like a pass more on the Hobbit, right? I think this is would also be kind of a cool one. He's not as well known, right? I mean, he's in the Hobbit movies, and he's obviously in the Hobbit, but I think it's kind of a cool concept. He's not super attached to any one faction, so it could be an interesting plug and play character where you can just kind of have him as your light side big character. And now we're going to get to a little bit harder of a thing to discuss. And what I mean by that is mounts and mounted things are very important across all of the Lord of the Rings, right? The Nazgul have mounts, big mounts. Rohan is the kingdom of mounts. There are special mounts basically across Lord of the Rings. Like we'll talk about it, like Shadowfax or Build a Pony, those types of things, right? I feel like mounts are important to Lord of the Rings. And so this is, I think, a relevant part of the dev Q&A where it says CG Heme is mounted or ship arena a hard no, or let's see what the future holds. And this is kind of a tie back to, it's a Swigo related question, right? Because in Swigo, not only do they have regular arena, but they also have ship arena. And your ship, basically power, is a combination of the pilot's power that would pilot that ship, plus the ship has its own sort of stats that you can upgrade and abilities that you can upgrade as well. And Nick Reinhardt says, it's not a hard no, but I would say it's incredibly unlikely. So then I think the question you have to ask is, how are they going to incorporate mounts into this game, right? Because again, I think they're very important. So maybe it's just that they make them large characters. So something like King Theoden on his mount, his horse, Snowmane, right? I think this could be an interesting, both large character, but also a leader, right? That would be super fun if he is basically a Rohan leader who also has a large characteristic because he's on his mount. I do think it's interesting that we're not probably going to get, maybe, I guess it really depends on how they define things, but we're not going to get like a full Rohan squad that's mounted, which I guess doesn't make the most lore sense, but yeah, I don't know. Let's talk about another horse that I think would be an interesting or fun character to have as a large character in the game, and that's Shadowfax. If you remember Shadowfax, he basically carries Gandalf to the north to distract the ring wraiths, right? He's very, very fast. He's considered to be one of these essentially god horses by the Rohanians. I think this could be a really fun, large character. A little bit more plug and play, right? Where he can essentially boost the team's speed either with just flat like speed boost, turn meter manipulation, or buffs like haste. I think that could be an interesting plug and play character to slot into a light side squad. Let's move on to they just have to add Build a Pony, don't they? He's a fan favorite. I think it just makes sense to add him into some sort of like Hobbit-like squad. Whether he's a large character and deserves the large tag, I guess I don't know about that. Maybe not. But this was kind of just going along with the mounts type of thing. I think you have to add Build a Pony at some point in the game. When you go through Sam's journey, right, you pass through Bree and you like basically take out Bill the asshat, and I think that would be a big mistake to not add Build the Pony into the game. Now let's do our last one here, and I think this is more of a deep cut for the lore nerds. This is not something I came up with on my own, right? I asked some Lord of the Rings people in my guild, and they suggested this, and it's Huan. And to my understanding, Huan is basically this giant dog that got godlike powers from the Valar, can speak a few times, basically invincible, and he helps Luthien and Baron try and steal a Silmaril from Morgoth. So this is kind of what that would be like First Age stuff, I think. Yeah. This could be another interesting large light side character. What I want to know is how they're going to tackle the first through the third age. Like, what kind of character should we expect from each of them, and where we're going with all of that as well. Anyway, I think that's it for me. Let me know down in the comments if you have any other ideas for like what you might want to see as a large light side character, and thanks for watching.